Alright. Oh, I need the Twitch chat up. Whoops. Whoops. Alright, I can seal the messaginos. Oh, kind of. It says connecting. It's weird. There we go. You know, I'll go ahead and start this because I want to start it off a little bit differently. So I'll get a base coat on here quickly. Heyo! So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be painting the pretty much all the fur black to begin with. So I'm just going to do this really quick because I want to spend time highlighting it up. So two shakes of a stick while I get that prepped here. Oh, my camera's weird. Hold on. I'm painting a gorilla. Okay. Hope you all have had a good new year, etc., etc. Oops. My line there's not dope. 15 months with Chewy. You know what? I feel like, hold on, we're gonna backpedal a little bit here quickly so I can see if I can't clean this up. I don't know why I didn't notice this. It must just be at the right angle. Oh, it is just at a weird angle right on the hat, that mold line. Because I know I attempted to clean this up. It's just like a shelf, kind of. Let me see. I don't want to sand the whole thing down, but we'll just ignore it. I need a doodad here. There we go. All right, so we are gorillifying today. You can tell I did zenithal, and then I just quickly went back and painted all the fur except really the face black, so that way we can spend time highlighting up a little bit. So the next color, you know, it's funny not working with noir and black. That's pretty weird. But look at all these people subscribing with Prime. Very dope. Remember, if you would like to support me, definitely sign up for the Patreon. I dropped down a couple people at the end of the month. I always lose people every month. But my current goal is to get 80 patrons. You know, the real goal is to get 100 people on Patreon. But so we're almost there. We're 4 people away. I had somebody join earlier today to bump us back up to 76. But let me start working here. So I grabbed a skeletal bone. And this is what we're going to mix with our black here. Oh, sorry. We're all over the world here. So I'm going to see what a 1-to-1 mix looks like. Now, you can't see it at all. So I bought more of my cellulose sponges here. And they were white. Last time they were gray, and they sent me white. So it's like impossible to see white paint on them. All right, so a 1-to-1 mix is pretty chill. So this is going to harken back to the Yeti, to the Warg. I do need to wait for this to dry though, so I'm going to pause for a second. But we're going to highlight our way up, and we're going to move our way back down, if that makes sense. A little bit different than just kind of washing things. And then we'll do some kind of freehand, something fun on the poncho. Boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. I was printing some new minis earlier. I really like Titan Forge's selection this month. Look at these boys. These little shroomies. I actually just got a brand new printer as well. I got the Elgu Mars 2. And compared to my Photon, I gotta be honest, the Photon is like trash. I'm like shocked. If you look at the detail here, so hold on, this is like a printing test. So let me show you. I think you'll be able to see. So, I don't know if you guys can tell. There is... Do you see the numbers written right here? Hold on. You see that? 0.4 millimeter, 0.2 millimeter, 0.1 millimeter. I mean, look at how sharp that printer is. So, definitely pleased. My Photon was just like, geez, dude. I want to just like clean it up and sell it on Facebook for like cheap. An Elgu Mars 2. The Mars 2 Pro is really, in my opinion, like not worth spending the extra money on. And then, so like on, you know, I feel like the Mars 2 is probably the best available in terms of price to speed and detail. So like these would take like, I don't know, these I think were like an hour and 50 minutes to print, so super quick because it's a mono screen. But so the only real upgrade, right, is to get a 4K screen, and so that would mean you're buying a Frozen Sonic Mini 4K, or you're getting a Elgu Saturn, but the Saturn's like impossible to find. So I may end up getting another Mars 2, or I'll save up and get a Saturn at some point. But now that I've got it rocking and rolling, I'm just trying to figure out like what my next move is. If I want to sell some printed minis, if I want to do classes with minis, like, or printed stuff, you know, whatever the case is. But I've been impressed. So, all right, now that this guy is dry. Oh, I did do something on Sunday. Hold on, I'll show this off. I always like to show fun little projects. But so this is from a private lesson with one of my Patreon people. And this is after about 4 hours of work. We've gotten it to this point. So definitely super hyped about the direction we're going in. So, and I mean, for 4 hours of work, you know, working with somebody, that's definitely really dope. But I'm excited to show you guys how this looks whenever it's done. It'll be done probably Tuesday. So next week, remind me to show you guys on Monday, and I should have a finished Tree Lord for you. All right, so now I've got my 50/50. It's a Tree Lord from Age of Sigmar. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be... Okay, now I was zoomed out for that. Hold up. Okay, now that we're zoomed in here, I'm going to be going for our top volumes. So all of this is very blocky. So like that, right? We're going for big blocks of color. And I really want to accentuate whatever shape we've got underneath. So if it's a like cylindrical oval or something like that, right? That's kind of the direction that we're moving in. I'm excited because this weekend we've got our first class for Patreon, and I am excited about it. I know everybody loved what we worked on last time, which was the black and white glazed mini, and everybody had awesome results from that class, so I feel like everybody is really killing it. So I'm just going to follow the same highlights. And, I mean, you could technically dry brush this if you really wanted to, but functionally, it'll serve you better if you just do overbrushing like this directly with the pigment and not, like, try and dry brush on top. I don't feel like that's really the best move to make. Do the back of the leg here. But since it's a new year, it's a Monday, I'm sure everyone started their diets and definitely went to the gym for the first time today, right? Isn't that what everybody says? New year, new me. No. All right, so we got the two back of those legs. Let's move over to the front here. May as well highlight up the belly. The underbelly here. The under fupa. Okay. Now then with this, we're gonna do a triangle shape. So, pretty much a tapered triangle headed towards where the knee is. And then another kind of triangle shape going down the side edge. It should connect to the backhand side right here. We'll do a little bit on this side too. Another triangle shape tapering down. And then his little happy trail here. Do a little bit. And grabbing the knee, down the leg. I did see quite a few people were grabbing the painting set. I hope you all are enjoying it if you have used it so far. I think it's definitely like, if you're someone that didn't have a lot of Reaper paints to begin with, and you're like wanting a nice, solid, you know, just full collection to rock with, this is definitely a good set to do so. All right, so we're just extending this out to the other, really just to the back side, right? All connecting through. Really high contrast. Let's do a little bit of this armpit action here. Down the side. There you go. Highlight that up a little bit. Do a little bit more here. And the bicep. I need to figure out who this producer is for the music, because I'm definitely enjoying it. I'm glad we're no longer like forcibly trying to listen to Christmas music. Let me look and see what this is. Sham Gang. So this is somebody totally new to this platform. They need to release more. Because yeah, they only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tracks. It's pretty good. Not bad. And then, unfortunately, I know all of the next music coming up is trash. So let me move down to like, I think right here? No. This. This right here. Okay, cool. Alright, so I want to do, we'll leave it like that. Alright, so we'll do, now then, it may seem intuitive to go all the way from the bottom of the hand down, but that's not really what's going on with this shadow. So you're going to start it a little bit below the wrist, like so. Because the hand is casting a shadow. And then on this side, right at about the elbow, you're going to want to add some color. Move around. The backside, no shadows being cast, so yeah, it'll just be pretty much directly down. And remember, I mean, you want coverage here. You're not really like, we're not really trying to dry brush or overbrush, right? Because we're going to be bringing out the detail through washing, tinting, yada yada yada. So just think about this as like a base coat. We are going to go brighter, so that's kind of what you need to keep in mind. Do a little bit here underneath the bicep on top of the elbowsy. And then right here, bicep-y, like that. Okay, good base. Good base to work with. We back it out. You can clearly tell where everything is kind of rocking and rolling. Trying to figure out what that was, sorry. Alright. I'm gonna add another brush full of our skeleton bone. Much lighter gray here. I'm gonna clean out my brush now that we're mixed. Alright. Is this, where's my focus? Ah, right there, okay. Alright. Start where we started last time. So what I'm going to do now is I want to leave 50% of the previous color, meaning half of wherever you put that previous color is where you're applying our highlight, and then you want to hook the edges. So by that, if it is a rounded surface, which all of this pretty much is, on the edges, you want to tail it down a little bit like this. And that'll just help sell the shape once we start shading everything down. We've got shapes for sale, and they're shaped like a gorilla. Wearing a poncho. Smoking a big glizzy, dude. We're gonna paint it like a hot dog. Okay. Other side of the arm. What's funny is the pose that he's in is not because he's like in some action scene, right? What it is he got an air fryer for Christmas and someone was like, I don't want to hear about your air fryer. And he's like, what'd you just say to me? What'd you just say to me? Okay. Back here, we're going to do the bottom of the heel. And then that leading edge right there. Flip it over, we're going to work on this. We definitely want to get the knee, the kneecap, and then right down the middle, like so. A little touch right here under the kneecap. And top of the side, like so. Under the belly here, we'll get this left-hand side of the pubis area. And then the kneecap. I think we're gonna have fun when we start tinting all this down with color, for sure. Top here. Top part of the thigh, right up underneath the Beltorino there. We want the inside portion of the bottom musculature there, and then the top of the bicep, like so. Flip it. Top of this bicep. Top of the bicep to you, Andre. Andre, are you in the chat? Where you been at, dog? If Andre's not in the chat, someone has to take the top of the jokes. So if he's not here, someone has to volunteer to be the keeper of that meme. I refuse to let it die. It was such a staple to all of the Miniature Monday streams. And I want to get a little bit right there at the elbow. Boom. All right. Now we can start grooving and moving. So I'm thinking silverback gorilla, but he's in the desert, so he's got to be a little musty and dusty in some spots. So what we shall do, I'm going to go ahead and grab our void blue. I'm also going to grab, let's see, I'm going to grab nut brown as well. We're going to want those two, and most likely polished leather. It's so cool working with new paint. Jedi Jared, what is up? What is up? So I'm gonna grab our void blue, give it a spin. Boop. Okay. So an email I was excited about, and then I had no reason to be excited about it. Whamp whamp. So I'm gonna take a tip of our blue here, mix it with a tip of the black. So we have a very, very deep, dark blue. Nearly black, I would say. And I'm gonna get it to that flubber-like consistency here. A little bit more water. Okay. What's up, Dragon Pink? You can see the chat. All right, so this is going to be going right on our feathered edge of our first application of color, like this. Literally just the edge. If you do too much of this too soon, you're actually going to like remove all of the leeway that you need. The top of responsibilities. It's okay, World Edit. All you gotta do, whenever I say we're gonna do the top of, I'll say top of the knee to your World Edit, and then you just have to reply with a emoji. You can pick the emoji. So he would always do, I forget what. So it always just has to be some kind of reaction, and that's pretty much the shoes you gotta fill. But so like I was saying, you want to make sure you're not just completely like running out of room for the rest of our tinting. So as long as you're hitting like right on the edge where it goes from just black to that first dark gray application, you'll be okay. And you can certainly apply this like all over the fur, right, leading into the black, and it should work okay. So like let me flip this over so you can see right here. That's what I just applied. That very small contrasty bit, that dark blue. Go back over here. Back over here. Do this arm. The knee. Like so. Painting where his gorilla biscuits would be. And up underneath the armpit. All right, so good first coat there. So now what I want to do, I'm going to spin I haven't touched these paints at all since I put them in the container. I'm going to put the nut brown here on the spinner. Shake the nuts here. Add a little bit next to the blue. Oh, she's clogged, Jim. There we go. All right, I only need a little bit. So what I want to do is we want to go from a dark blue to a warmer tone. So I'm going to take the nut brown, add a little bit of our darker bluish tone that we just used. There we go, that looks good. I'm going to add more water. You want more water than pigment this go around. I'm going to add a little bit more of the brown. There it is. Same idea. You want to leave about 50% of the previous color. Like so. And then just taper it into our dark blue. In these lighter highlight areas down below, that's what we're going to be doing. Thanks for the raid, Monkey. Did we get the raid because we're working on a primate here? Back here to the bottom leg. So that's kind of the thing, right? If you can move from shadows into a highlight and you have the opportunity to change the color temperature that you're working with, right? Obviously we're going with blue, which is a cool tone. Now we're going with warm brown. It helps create more visual contrast, makes everything more dynamic color-wise. Apply more here on the leg. Bottom side of the bicep. Down the forearm. Okay. See over here. More monkey business. Bottom leg. I'll do the interior portion there on the shin. Bottom half of the shin here. And I'm really, like, at this point, it's just kind of a glaze. Like, I'm just running the brush over the texture. And then I'll go ahead and do this all over the underside of the arm because that's going to be more so in shadow than not. I'm going to glaze this color on top of the belly completely. Okay. I'm also going to take this color in up and around the face. Haven't really done anything around there for now. I am going to glaze the mouth and everything. The hands, excuse me, the hands don't necessarily matter all too much currently, but I'm going to go ahead and put this color on top of it. Applying it here to the other arm as we move our way down. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to take polished leather here. I'm going to take this and give it a spin. Why the blue on black? So I don't know if you literally just joined like 1 second ago because I definitely just explained it. But so when it comes to color theory, right, it is better to have colors working together rather than just black and white to create contrast. All colors are categorized into temperature, right? So either a cool color or a warm color, and that's kind of like your most basic way to know the contrast that you're building. And so since we're painting something that is essentially black, it's very boring to do it just black to white, right? And with a highlight, like a gray or something like that. So in the deepest shadow areas, right, we would want something, if it's like a silverback gorilla, you would want it to be something cool or bluish, right? We could have used purple as well, but purple tends to lead more towards like red eventually. So I'd rather keep it very blue. So that's why we did a very deep blue. And like if I can get a little bit closer here, it'll make more sense. All right, here we go. So right here is where all of that dark blue is existing. And you can see it too in these other sections. And then around the dark blue is where then we've layered in the brown. So you're creating more of a dynamic jump in contrast without actually affecting the tone, or sorry, the shades, the amount of black that's in the painting. And then as we move our way up, we're going to get it to be brighter. That way we can highlight it back with gray. So essentially what I'm always trying to do is create varied levels and tones of color. So another example, just in a different realm, would be on a miniature like this. And so the boots are actually a very good example of that, because these leathers, right, they're greens, they're purples. Essentially all of my shadow, magenta, it's all done with colors other than brown, right, that are helped to sell this old leathery look. I mean, you can see right here on this bag, there's a ton of texture, a ton of different color variants. There's purple in the beard, right? But when you move it back, it isn't like super obvious, right, that your contrast is being created by competing colors and color temperatures, but rather it just looks like a cohesive composition, right? And so that's kind of the idea behind doing color theory. It can take a little bit of work. There are some good color theory books. There aren't color theory books in terms of like miniature painting, but you can always watch some YouTube videos, anything like that. I do sell a digital periodic table of painting, which helps you come up with color combinations and highlight colors, shade colors, things like that. And I sell a digital version of it, so you can download it if you would like. It's on my website, minipainting.studio, if you would like to check it out. But so I'm going to take that polished leather color, and I'm going to add a little bit of our nut brown to it. You can see it up here. It's definitely like an orangey, yellowy ochre. I'm going to do 50-50. I'm going to add some water. And we'll see how this looks. We may need to go darker, but this is going to go... Yeah, we'll go darker. But so this is going to go over any remaining of our lighter gray. But obviously, right, a super warm tone existing on top of where we had our cool tones. But we'll darken this up a little bit one final time, and then we'll go back with some gray on top and do implied fur, and then it should look really sick. And the implied fur will be with like a gray, right? So we will have gone full circle from cool tone to warm tone to cool tone. Let me do this down here. So what we'll do is I think we'll use the nut brown on its own on top of this to taper it in, and then we'll go back with our gray. You can see, I mean, it's relatively subtle. I mean, actually, we'll just have to see. I mean, I feel like I could highlight on top and it would work, but I'll let it all dry before we make that decision. Okay, I think I got it all. Cool, so we're just gonna let this dry. In the smaller areas, though, that contrast looks really great. Obviously, in the broader zones, it's up to us to kind of clean it up with our final highlight application there. But I think it's gonna look really good. Tint the belly with this too. One change, I do want the skin to be a bit more like pinkish gray than just a straight up gray, right? Because gorilla skin definitely doesn't have a lot of color to it. But we will try our best to accommodate some and effectuate some change. So I'm going to take this darker color very thinly. You can see it right here. I added way more water. And I'm just going to use this to taper into the color that we just applied in the broader sections. So really just on top of the shoulders. I like the tone that we got, right? That ochre is really nice. But I just need a little bit more variance. You can see I just went back on top. And the amount of pigment there is like nothing. So it really is just washing into the recesses, which is totally what we want. Okay. So we're going to let that dry. And we're going to highlight it up. And then we'll work on his outfit. Hands, face, and kablammers. Two big old kablammers there. Where's my drink? You know what? I forgot to take my allergy medicine today. No good. I don't know how I keep doing that to myself. All right. So I've got the lighter gray here. Where should we start? Where's like the easiest place? Probably down right about here. So I'm gonna take a touch of the gray. Highlight up on top of the lighter color, so you can see, right? That creates much more contrast than just going directly on top of black. And so I'm just doing these brush strokes here to create implied fur. The only reason why I say it's implied fur is because I'm doing like intentional brush strokes rather than just dry brushing. You could dry brush directly on top of this to get a similar result, but obviously it's a bit messier. You don't have as much control. So that's why I'm just choosing to do it myself. But, so I'm going for this extremely cool tone gray as a highlight on top of the warm tone that we just applied. And it just creates a much more dynamic tone for the fur. And then it also gives you opportunities to pick certain things out, right? So like, I know that this highlight here looks really good sweeping down and kind of rotating down the inside of the forearm here. So I'm going to just do implied fur strokes pretty much diagonally. And there's like one longer hair right there at the bottom of that arm that looks really good if you pick it out. And then we do the same thing on the exterior edge here, just much less to help kind of frame the arm as we move down the body. And then I think too, we'll probably do one darker gray to bridge the gap, but I don't want to apply too much, right? That's kind of the trick here. Do a little bit on the edge of the knee or whatever, the kneecap. Top right here. So we bring it down. Kneecap, and then a little bit down the middle of the thigh. The edge. So we move to the back. Got the back of the legs. Then, grab a little bit more water here. My brush is tapping out a little bit. I'm just going to do implied fur here directly across the top of the forearm to break up that solid color. And then top of the shoulder here, or the bicep, I guess it in the shoulder. And then we'll use the darker color. But I want to hook this around with a thumb. Hook it down in between the crease of the elbow. Like so. This side, round out, round it out. Okay, and I'm gonna mix a little bit of black. Tone down this gray to a darker, cool gray. I'm actually gonna add a little bit of blue to that too. A little bit more black. There we go, a little bit more blue. So now I just have a really, really dark grayish blue. And this will be the color that I wanna taper the brighter tone into, like so. And this is going directly on top of, remember, a dark brown. And so we should be getting, yeah, it looks nice. A much more rounded, even tone and gradient. I'm just using the side of the brush. This isn't really dry brushing, right? I'm just using wet paint, connecting it to those brighter areas, right, that we put those hooked edges, essentially, to help create more rounded volumes. You can actually probably take the same darker color here and hit these bottom little strands as if they're picking up color from below somehow. It'll just look good illustratively. I'll do a little bit at the top of this bicep again, or whatever, underneath the bicep. Go ahead and hit the sides of the fur here on the cheeks. We'll go back in to fix all that at some point, but I just need to make sure that I have like a matching tone. So, let's see. Underside with that darker blue. Guess we'll do this side too, right? Make a match. Okay, down here, I'm going to do the left and right hand side of that brighter highlight. Like that. That looks really nice. Inside, or sorry, the edge, now the inside. Down here where the Gorilla Glue is produced. Onto the other leg, towards the kneecap. And then up here, I'm going to go right up underneath our brighter shadow. And look at that. I mean, it's just way more dynamic. Go up underneath the armpit a little bit. Forearm here, I'm going to connect these very gently. Something like that. I feel like that's still a little bit contrasty, but it's okay. Oh, I didn't do this part of the arm. Oh, my bad. We can fix that. Make it a little bit brighter. All right, so now I feel more confident working our way through the rest of everything he's wearing, right? Because that'll allow us to adjust these colors accordingly. So right now, right, the contrast isn't super bright, which means we'll be able to highlight up everything relatively, like, typically. Okay, so now then, let's use our nut brown to go ahead and base coat his poncho. All right, we have more here. Thanks everybody though hanging out with us today. Let me know in the chat if you are grabbing this mini. I know this month it was a little bit different, right? Because you also had the paint set to get. And then every month you'll know at most, I would say, 2 weeks ahead of time for which miniatures are next. I pretty much want to give you guys 2 weeks lead time. The other option is releasing them all at once, but I feel like leaving a little bit to be a surprise is always better. At least I know everybody enjoyed, right? Like the unveiling of the next kits. So. Okay. For some reason I have a change of heart and I feel like he should have a purple hat. Is that acceptable? Are we allowed to do that? Let me double check this actually really quick. I feel like maybe I have goofed. I have two extra colors on my palette right here that I don't think are supposed to be there, so I just need to double check. Oh, they finally have the extra pieces to the Vex airbrush. Oh my god, but there are no photos, and there's a billion pieces. Oh no. That doesn't help anybody. Okay. Because I know that my, I need nozzles. Let me see. Where is that? I guess I'll look at that later. How funny. Alright, so, let me double check. Oh my god, why is there no list? Where are we? Runic. Oh, see, I had the wrong purple. Well, I'm glad. See, I knew I had something extra there I didn't need. All right, so I'm gonna use Styx purple. Ha ha ha. And then I know a lot of people that were buying the paint set were confused because of Swarthy Flesh and Youthful Flesh. Both are literally like. You may get ones that have that name on them, but then they also both have different names depending on when they were made. So I know a lot of people have been getting like different colors and they think they're getting the wrong thing, but it's actually the right thing. And then some people are getting the other. So I think it's Peachy Flesh and Barbarian Flesh, if I remember correctly. So, which is Barbarian Flesh for Swarthy Flesh and then Peachy Flesh for Youthful Flesh, if I'm not mistaken. So you can get both. So, but anyway, so I'm gonna grab the purple here. We'll base coat the hat, and I want to keep the contrast a little bit, or the overall level of lighting a little bit dark, because I do want to have his cigar glowing. I think that's just a cool effect to roll with. Yeah, Barbarian Flesh is a good tone. I mean, it's like a little bit more lively version of tan skin, right? Which you guys know I use tan skin in my own painting constantly. That's like my one skin tone sort of basic color. But I use it all the time too, right? For underpainting highlights, things like that. Barbarian Flesh doesn't really work for that just because of the amount of like color involved with it. But it's great for skin, right? It isn't necessarily utility color like tan skin is. We'll just paint the whole thing. All right. Base coated that, and then let's see what else we can base coat here for maybe his holsters and such. So, polished leather. All right, yeah, so we'll just use straight up polished leather. How about that? And we'll wash it down. Should be easy enough. I have a bunch of the Marvel Crisis Protocol minis to paint up that have been super delayed this whole time. But any old commission work that I have is literally like just dead in the water until I can get to it, because pandemic, y'all. Even though, I mean, I officially don't take on new commission work, but I have an existing client that wanted to use his stimulus check to help out people, so he ended up booking, with his current stuff, one of the Kingdom Death dragons, the big dragon. I think it's the Dragon King. I painted 2 of those so far. And they're not too crazy. Really, I just don't like assembling KDM stuff in general. I think it's really poorly done. And it's already assembled, so that would have been my major complaint. So now that I know I don't have to assemble it, I'm like, yeah, send it, it's fine. We'll do something cool. I think I'm gonna do a bunch of freehand like script all over it, so it'll be pretty cool. What is the best black? Pure black is not it. Well, that seems like a very subjective statement. I'm a fan of noir black though. That's what I use in my day-to-day painting because it's not actually black, right? It's like a little bit off. Because I don't necessarily like working with straight up black. I like to always be able to go darker. And so if I limit myself, right, from not having a pure black, I feel like it helps out. But I may have to coat this twice. I feel like I already had water mixed in with that. Yeah, this is the Noir Black Club for sure. Let me re-vortex this. There we go. I can already tell. Yeah, I must have had water mixed with that. Let me see. Yeah, but the Discord people are Discord people, so. No, I know that Coal Black is very similar to Noir Black in general. They're both the same idea, right? Not quite black. So they're both good for the same reason. There we go. This is real coverage. That was so funny. It looked like it was fine. I mean, you can see this little dot next to what I just applied. There's water in that one. Me and my brush, right? It's always wet, so I always forget, like, hey, you may have mixed water in that inadvertently the last time you used it, and that's sure enough what had happened here. Okay. That should work just fine. Yeah, that's one reason why Keldor I like Noir Black the most, because it's not, there isn't a like blue pigment or red. Yeah, Nightmare Black should just be called Super Dark Blue, that's for sure. It's kind of like Red Brick is not red at all, it's just purple. But naming conventions, you know, there's only so many you can consistently pull off. All right, what's funny is this kind of feels like he's like rocking, if his poncho was purple, it would be like a gorilla trying to cosplay like Darkwing Duck colors, I feel like. But so we're gonna let that dry a little bit, and then we'll apply a wash to the poncho, the belt, and the hat. We're doing good on time. It'd be good about how you load your brush. Well, my brush is just wet. I mean, I'm not sure what exactly you're asking for. So normally my brush is just wet. So like this is just a wet brush. And then I always pull. You'll see me pull like this. If I'm not mixing paint, I always pull it onto the brush by pulling down. And then that's kind of how you can see right here. The brush is still wet, but I have paint on the end. And that like keeps it active, so. All right, so this looks pretty good. I'm gonna take our black, and then I'm gonna take the, you know what we have, what should we use for this? Let's do black and the purple. And then I'm gonna make a wash out of that up here. So I'm just grabbing water to pull from. And put that on top of the hat. And we'll do the same thing on the poncho. Effectually, when we highlight up the poncho, right, the fact that there's purple in this is not going to make a difference for us one way or the other. It's probably actually going to help because we're going to go more of a yellowy ochre highlight tone anyway, like a tan. So it'll be more yellow, right? Color Theory 101, yellow and purple, always good friends. That's why the belt looks so crazy right now. Because we're going yellow on top of like nothing but cool darker tones. And you just want a good all-over application of this. Make sure it's settling in the shadow areas. Okay, and then the belt is still a little bit wet, so I'm just gonna kind of pretend is that a vacuum? Yeah. You're just doing water. Yep. All you need is water. All you ever need is water when you're painting. So what's interesting, right, is like a lot of people get sold the idea that you should be buying product. You should be buying thinner, flow improver, like Lamium medium or whatever Games Workshop has, right? Like they do all these things because it's a lot easier than understanding like how to actually gain control of your brush. So like on my Patreon, there's a 2-hour brush control class, and then there's a wash master class and a glazing master class. And all of those, like if you did those 3 back to back, you would literally realize why you never need to buy anything that is labeled a verb. So like one of my biggest beefs in miniature painting is that companies, which everybody's got to make $1, so it is what it is, right? I've got to make money, they got to make money, so who cares? But what gets confusing for a lot of people is that you take a verb and you turn it into a noun, right? So like when you talk about a wash, you should be using it as a verb. I'm going to wash something, or a glaze, I'm going to glaze something, right? But instead, they've taken that verb and they've made a glaze medium, or they've made washes that you can use, right? Which isn't too confusing, but there is confusion when people are like, what's the difference between a shade, an ink, and a wash? There's nothing. You're doing the same thing with it. They're just chemically different, right? And that's why it's much easier to just be like, this is a verb, right? And if you approach things from that mentality, it'll be easier to kind of understand what's going on. But at the end of the day, especially with high-level painting, really what you're doing is you're a watercolor artist applying watercolor consistency of paints onto a 3D object. And what you're doing is you're trying to get as little surface tension as possible and as little pigment as possible, so you have as much control as possible with the brush in releasing that pigment off of the bristles, right, onto what you want. So ideally, when you're painting, your brush strokes should be drying the second that your brush is done, right, like 1 to 2 seconds later. You should, in theory, be able to apply a layer of a highlight, grab a little bit more, or a new color or whatever, and by the time you come back, just like literally just grab it and come back, it should be dry. And that's like on the very high level of painting what's going on. But because it takes a little bit more work to understand brush control and how, like, that's why using a natural bristle brush, right, is so important, because essentially what you're doing is you're like handicapping your ability to gain brush control and control over the pigment and the water and the media, like whatever is on your brush, right? The medium, sorry. But whenever you're adding something like a retarder, a flow aid, a glaze medium, anything like that, I used to use floating medium in my painting, right? Because it allowed everything to be super smooth. But then it's like, oh, but that's a handicap because I can't do fine detail work because I keep adding like a liquid, right? Changing the viscosity of the paint, so I can't just grab a little bit at a time to do X, Y, Z. I'm always like stuck in this same sort of playing field of surface tension and everything else. So once you realize that that's actually not helpful for you at all, I have no idea what this alarm is reminding me of. Anyway, but once you realize that doesn't help you, and you realize you just need water, everything changes. Like every single thing changes. That's the one biggest thing that everybody gets from my Patreon, my private lessons. Like, they realize how much paint they waste and like how little paint you actually need. Like, you guys know that one bottle of Noir Black lasted not only the entire year for Miniature Monday, but the entire year for all of the painting that I do, right? So like, it's just actually more than a year, because I was using it, I mean, it was probably a year and a half out of one bottle of a color that I use like every single time I sit down to paint. So, but that's kind of the one biggest thing, right, that a lot of people kind of don't think about, because everybody's looking for an easier way to do something, X, Y, Z. If you just take the time, right, to understand how your brush works, understand how paint works, having a wet palette makes a big difference, right? Like, and not Not in a sense that, oh, I'm going to put a lid on this wet palette and I'm going to use these same colors next time, because that's not why I use a wet palette, right? The reason I use a wet palette is so I can get these, you know, micro thin layers of paint and pigment that stay active for so long. You can see it on the palette cam, right? This is a wonderful consistency of like a glaze or a shade that I'd be using, right, at a high level of painting. This is all the paint I would ever need to do shading or whatever. And that's why it's so important, right? Now, again, this is just how I paint, so if you like the way that I paint at a high level, then definitely take what I say to heart. But that's what's interesting, right? Is you can watch Anne's show, and she is 1000% different. She mixes solid paint, right? Like not at all in the same consistency in a well palette, and paints in a completely different layering style, mixing up your colors as you go, yada, 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 right? So like, I paint a certain way. It's very easy to pick up on. It's very easy because it makes you so much faster as a painter, and you have a lot more control. But some people that just like literally can't get a handle of that, or they don't like spending money on brushes, because this does require a brush that can kind of control the paint a little bit better, then painting a different way may be better for you, right? Using mediums may be better for you. But at the end of the day, anything that I do is only ever going to use water. And some people will say, oh, so that you use deionized water, or you use distilled water, or whatever dumb idea that they think will make a difference, right? The only time water will make a really big difference in your paint quality is if you have like well water that's just super minerally and weird, and it may have buildup in it, whatever. And 99.999% of everybody that paints, right, you're not going to notice anything. You can use tap water, you can use whatever you want, right? So anything like that. But wow, Trash said it was so nice that he put it in chat twice. Thanks. Yeah, no, I moved stuff all over the place. I don't know. I got it. We're trying to hit 80 people on Patreon. All right, that's what's happening. We're trying to hit that 80. We were at 77, and then I lost 2 people, and then I got another person this morning. So we're trying to get to 80. All right, I had it set to 100, but I mean, small steps, baby steps, right? So we're just trying to make things look a little bit better, right? I've been stuck at like 75 people on average, doing all the classes on Patreon for like the last 6 months, and I will lose as many people as I gain every month. So I just like literally float. But that's the new thing now. It's like, all right, well, I want to keep some of these people around. So I'm going to make a new wash. I'm mixing the darker color in with the lighter leather color. This is what we're going to use to wash on top of the belt, etc. The other reason too, now don't get me wrong, I will use Army Painter washes all day long because they are absolutely hands down the best. Sorry. I know Reaper makes some washes, but Reaper paints don't use the same resin floating medium that their washes do, which for me is perfect in terms of building on top of just the way that I paint if I'm doing like real easy, quick work. So I will use that. They're strong tone, medium tone, and dark tone. And that's just for like tabletop level stuff that I'm painting, right? And I don't want to spend a long time. But otherwise, and that's just because I literally will wash the entire miniature and then we just do highlights on top, right? Like super simple ABC stuff, nothing crazy. But otherwise, I always want to be able to like magically pick the perfect color to create a wash out of. And using water obviously helps. So yeah, just do, the link should be like everywhere, but somebody can probably put it in the chat. But it's just patreon.com/minipaintingstudio. Whenever you sign up, starting at the $5 level and above, you have access to like 70-something hours worth of classes, and then obviously the new classes that happen every single month. So it's up to you. It's all good. Sorry, I got floating cat hair here. All right. Now then, what should we do for the freehand? Should we do a hot dog? Should he have a big glizzy on his poncho? I think that'd be great. But let's highlight up the hat. So I'm gonna grab Runic purple. Give it a good old toss-a-ring. Move somewhere in palette land right here. Hey, there's Justin. Hey, there's Justin in the chat for us. Thank you. All right, so I'm gonna grab a little bit of the darker color here. Just an afterthought. Mix it in. And we'll highlight it up accordingly. Justin, do you have Among Us?
I think I own it, but I'm gonna be honest with you, I hate that game.
Oh, for real? Because I haven't played it because I don't like the idea of playing with strangers. But I've been wanting to play with friends, so that's what I was gauging. See if people had it or not.
Yeah, I owned it, but I literally played it for about an hour, and I could not have been more bored with it. I feel like the concept is there are other games that do the same thing that are more interesting.
What about Fall Guys? Did you buy Fall Guys?
I do have Fall Guys, and I do enjoy a good romp on that every now and then. That game is good old fashioned arcade fun.
Okay, because I know Sydney wants us to get it, so I'm just trying to gauge who we know. All right.
It's hilarious to play with friends.
Yeah. Figured as much with its literal, because I remember when it came out, early access, and they were like, hey, I hope you guys enjoy our game, and then they were like, oh god, what have we done? And like you couldn't even like connect, and everybody and their mom was like, this game's amazing. So yeah. Because yeah, we have now officially taken a break from Final Fantasy. We did everything we could do.
I would say that, well then come try the Shadowlands expansion.
No, but she hates WoW.
That's fair.
She can't do it.
I would say like, so Fall Guys feels a lot like Mario Party.
Yeah.
But without all the nonsense in between, like the whole board game aspect.
Right.
It's just the fun mini games.
Yeah, we've been playing some Smite, and then we've been playing Titan Quest again.
I didn't know Smite was still. I thought they got rid of it.
Dude, no, they like literally keep adding. There's like over 100 heroes, and what we do is we just play against bots with other players because otherwise it's super toxic. So we've been having fun. Dude, it was so funny. I played a game, and they were like, "We're gonna report you for trolling," and I'm like, "Dude, this is the second game I've played, like ever." And they're like, "Whatever, reported," and I'm like, "What? What for what? Just because I don't know how to play? Like, it's crazy." All right, so now I've added a little bit of white to our lighter purple here. We're going to do the edges. I know I'm just waiting for Darktide, the 40k Vermintide game to come out. Even though I know I'll get bored of it after a couple weeks, as you do with every Vermintide game. But it's 40k, how could you not?
Yeah, I didn't play the last one that came out on Steam. It looked
a lot
of fun. Yeah, I almost pulled the trigger on it like
it
a
is
times.
Great, dude. So that's the thing. Like, it's been so long since Sydney and I have played it that like if you were to buy it and you're like, hey, you want to run through some rounds or whatever, we would immediately do it, right? Like, essentially what they did is they just took Vermintide, upped the graphics, added more enemies, and it's sweet. Now, I will tell you up front, the game has like 12 missions. That's it. And you will just rerun them over and over at different difficulties to get randomized better and better gear. That's just how it works. As you level up your class that you're playing, you'll get some different perks, but that's pretty much it, right? Like, that is the bread and butter of the game. It is super solid. That's why everybody loves it, but unless you're a super grindy guy, you'll just get tired of it, right? But it is definitely fun. If it's on sale at all, definitely buy it. Like, you won't hate it at all. But the 40k version I'm looking forward to, just because how could you not want to play some Imperial Guard killing a bunch of Chaos cultists and demons? Like, definitely going to be a blast.
Okay. Well, then I'll put it on my wish list then next time it's on sale. Probably for the maybe not the spring sale, the next one they have coming up.
Right. But it's a good time. What is the Atelier box art project? So right now, the box art project that we're doing is this guy. But we did the King of Hell, and then we did a Dark Age miniature previously. And but yeah, so what it is it's every single week we do a like competition level stream, and it's a paint along. So it's me just painting something at a super high level for an hour every single week, Wednesday night, and we just work on it till it's done. So but that's what that tier is, Kaz, since you were wondering. Gloomhaven on Steam is pretty legit. I was actually wondering about that, Trash, because I remember when it was released, it wasn't like amazing because they didn't release like everything at once. Because I've painted Wait. Oh, there you go, Sharky. So Justin, it's $7.50 on Steam right now.
Is that sale or is that what the full
It's on
price is
sale.
now? And either way, it doesn't matter. I'll pick it up at that price.
Yeah, it's on sale. You should grab it. And then let Sydney and I know, because we will literally hop in and smash rats, dude. There's actually nothing better than the first time you play through the missions, because it's like so epic on some of them. But yeah, so what we do is every single week though, we just work on a very high level project. The King of Hell project was really sweet. Yeah, an extra $10 you get. So essentially, the jump from 10 to 20 is the $10 level. You get 4 hours about of classes every single month, and then it doubles that, right? Well, actually, if it's 5 weeks in a month, it's even more, right? But it's an extra hour every single week. We all hang out and work, and a lot of people that are at that tier are like, "This is the most beneficial," just because it's me taking the same principles, right, that we're doing and everything, including the stuff that we do here on Miniature Monday, and just, you know, at a much higher level. And people like it too, right? Because I mean, we sit down and we paint a mini in one session for everything that we do, but this is the first time where it's not start to finish, and so people really can focus in on that hour every single week and spend a little bit more time to try and improve their painting. So I think that's why it's a little bit more successful than, you know, just bashing your head against a wall. But all right, so I'm adding a little bit more white, and I'm adding texture here to the brim of the hat. I'm sure you can tell, right? I want it to look nice and worn. Oh, and yeah, and so then the Atelier tier though, so like the 3D printed mini that we have right now, I actually own, and so people were purchasing them. Hey, what's up, dude? Slow Fuse, that's that Pro Acryl love. Thanks for the raid. I've actually never used your paint, funny enough. I think someone, no, that's not true. I think maybe Shoshi let me try some of it previously, but I don't know. I've never bought any. I know that's not what you want to hear, but I only ever hear great things about it, right? I know you have an army of streamers that like only use your paint, so that's usually a good indicator of quality. So, all right, we did the hat. Let's do the freehand. All right, so I have the other painted Gorillo, but let's just have fun with this. So I'm gonna look up. Let's look up ponchos here. I initially painted the poncho to look like what's his name? Old man, get off my lawn. Clint Eastwood. So I painted it to look like Clint Eastwood's poncho, but we're gonna change it up. So let's do, I actually like this pattern right here. Let's do this. This looks good. Okay. So I'm gonna need a little bit of red. So I'm gonna grab, is this the red we want? Dragon red, yeah? Do I still have the Reaper page up? Yes, right? Where are you? So we're gonna grab Dragon red. I need to swoon you, Kaz. Well, I'll try. Do I need to update my patron count? Hold on. Boom, wow. Oh, I like your now your Twitch name makes more sense now that I know your real name. Here, we gotta change the patron count here. We're at 77. We're 3 people away from 80. Once I get 80 people, we'll do a mukbang pizza party. How about that? We'll all play a game together or something. But we'll take our red. I'm gonna take this red and I'm gonna mix it with our darker brown here. Need a little bit more than that. There we go. Oh, and by the way, you guys, I am re-recording that brush control video. Actually, maybe I'll do it today, to be honest with you. But I recorded that brush control video so long ago. So that was like in the kitchen apartment back in Oklahoma City like 2-3 years ago. So, but I've been telling people I want to re-record it. I'll probably end up doing it. Maybe I'll do a live stream today. That'll probably happen tonight, actually, and we'll just redo that epic video that everybody loves so much. All right, poncho time. Let's make it happen, Kevin. So we're just gonna do slanted ponchos here, or well, like a chevron style. So, oh my god, I've got cat hair on my fingers. Hold on. All right. So I'm going to start on a shoulder and head in like so to a V. Now, whenever I do freehand, I don't really care about the folds when it comes to the base color. If we need to adjust a shape or anything, I will adjust it like as I highlight, but I would rather keep things simple. So I'm just doing a nice V down the center of the poncho. You know what the difference is between a poncho and a cape? There's no joke. This is just literally fashion, right? A cape has a split in the front. It'll still have the same drape like a poncho, but... Yeah, my cheese. The brush control video is literally the same as what I would teach at ReaperCon in person. Now, or at my like private events, right, in the Airbnbs. But what people love about it, like when I do it in person, I literally walk around the room, and if anybody's taken that class at ReaperCon, you know, because it's so funny. But or actually the atelier, right? But I walk around the room and I touch your paint, and like if it's mixed in correctly, because that's how I'll know. Or like I'll do different things with the brush control, and like I'll ruin your palette and make you redo it in front of me. Like it's just funny. I'm like a taskmaster in person. But it's essentially the same, right, as what I do in that video. And I just make people do the work in front of me. Because that's the thing, too, right? You can take a bunch of classes at a convention, but, like, sometimes it's information overload, or it's a demo class, or, like, even a hands-on class. It isn't necessarily about replicating a result, but rather just seeing you try your best. And for me, it's like, I'm like an Eastern Bloc Olympic trainer, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm here to make you feel bad about that extra potato chip you ate, but instead it's like applying paint, you know? So I always try and make sure people know exactly what's happening. All right, so we have this color here. I'm gonna make this a little bit thicker on the back. Now what happens, I'm like stealing someone else's pattern here, of course. I just Googled ponchos. Don't really think we're trying to do a Burberry or a Gucci print, but okay. So this color now we're going to highlight up before we apply another one. So I'm actually going to highlight this up by using the leather tone that we have and a little bit more of the red. I'm going to add a little bit of white. I just don't want it to go like pastel. That was almost pastel. A little bit more red will kill it. There we go. Okay. So now I'm just looking for our edges and anywhere where a highlight would hit, which is pretty simple on the front because we've got nice, easy folds to follow. And then down here, where we don't necessarily have folds, is where I'm going to pretty much outline the V because it will visually kind of set where everything is. So think of it that way, right? Like if you're doing a freehand pattern and you have an organic shape that's casting a shadow, definitely paint it as you typically would. But if it goes into an area where there is no shape, like a fold or fur or whatever, you need to outline what it is. And that could either be a brighter outline or a darker outline. Currently, since we're highlighting, we're doing a brighter one. And I'm going to pair a darker color next to all of this, so it'll all work out in the end. But that's just kind of an easy rule of thumb. And then remember, too, you just want to make sure that your brush is wet and you're grabbing it on the tip of the paintbrush, and that way it will act more like a pencil and it'll be much easier for you to control. In theory. Now down here, it's going into shadow on the tip of the V, so I'm literally not going to mess with that. And then I'm going to add more white. And then more of this sort of ochre color. So now it's more of like a strange, deathly pink, or like ground beef that will kill you. It's probably a good way to describe that color. So we're gonna go back here. Forbidden ground beef. That's actually, with all the 3D printing stuff I'm doing, my favorite 3D printing term is forbidden ramen to describe the supports that you throw away. It's forbidden ramen. You can't eat it. I'm doing this edge. And down here to the V itself. Okay. All right, so now that I'm going to take black, make a very dark color, and I'm going to outline the entire V. Really, it's not going to be that big of a difference, but we are going to highlight the rest of the brown around this, right? So that's why I just want something dark to kind of butt up against it. So that way, it's kind of like a buffer barrier sort of for us, so we don't have to feel too constrained with our highlight. There's no real like freehand tip behind that other than makes it easier for us. But really loose, easy enough to do. All right, so now going back with the nut brown, let me see, let's move to a better area on the palette. There we go. Add a little bit of white, just a tip. Giggity. A little bit of the leather. There we go. That's a nice good tone. And highlight up as per usual. So we're going to do probably 3 highlight applications here. So this first one, really just kind of consider it like a base coat. Easy enough. All right. Down here towards the back. This little side flap here. Now then, moving back, I'm gonna grab more of the leather color, more white. Nice, cool. So now we're going into more of an edge phase here, like any 7th grader with an internet connection. So we're going to focus on any edges of the cloth first to kind of start re-outlining everything. Thanks, Adobe. Adobe's like, hey, we just updated 18 programs. Thanks. We updated Adobe XD. Wow, thank you. Didn't know I was still doing UI work. Then just sort of tapering here as I move down that first fold section. Focusing on the edge. Oh my god, Dark Knights, dude. What's even better is like if they've got a macro with like a catchphrase every time they have to like re-pull aggro or something. That's the best. The only people that are really allowed to do that though are white mages if they're rezzing you. My favorite was "You're not my child, but I'm gonna raise you anyway." That was really loved that one. That was a guild or what free company mate. We were running Eden raids or whatever. And boy, oh boy, we kept dying. What was funny is like I only expected them to help us with one, and then they were just like, let's do all of them. And so, you know, the first few, it's like, all right, we can handle this, and then it was like, oh god, we're just dying. Like we were just getting a carry pretty much. Not complaining, obviously. Very nice of them to do so. When the only reason they res you is so that like there's just somewhere else for the DPS to go rather than people that matter. Man, I remember though back in like the burning coil or whatever, like turn 5, turn 6. I forget which one was super hard. I think it was turn 5 or turn 6, but we just had to get the carry. Like I remember our free company, our raid group was like, hey, we paid these dudes 300,000 gil, and they're just gonna carry you through the content. And we were like, oh my god, thank you so much. Just literally couldn't make it happen. It was one that had the plant with blighted. I forget which, like where you literally couldn't move, or the whole party wiped. And for whatever reason, our party like could not figure that out, man. It was like a race to the bottom every time. Okay, so highlighting nicely. Let's move to the back. Back's much easier. I know our paint job is running a little bit longer than typical. Usually we're like right about an hour and a half, but I did give a 15-minute tangent on using water. But this we probably have 20 minutes left, if I had to guess. 15. Gently highlighting up the bottom here. I'm gonna taper it actually. Turn 6? Yeah. God, that was like when we man. What's funny too is like finally getting out of turn 6. It was like nothing. It was like we had just been like put through the ringer so many times. Or like what was funny too, right? Is like doing, you know, you run through World of Darkness now, or like whatever it is, tower, not Crystal Tower. Circus Tower, right? Like you run through those, and like when they came out, that was so hard. Like it was not; those were not easy runs, man. Even harder, I feel like, than like the Puppet Factory, or like what, you know, whatever the biggest alliance raids are right now. But man, like I just remember how brutal those runs were, and so running through them with Sydney, I was like, dude, you have no idea how this used to be. It was like brutal. If you got in here with a bad party, you'd be like, can I just go home? I got eaten by Atmos. Can I go home? All right, more white, more of the yellow. And we're just doing edges. Yeah, that whole the stories going into Puppet's bunker and all that, where you just have to like go back and forth and inside the cave, outside the cave, inside. I was like, dude, guys, come on, just like let us get inside this and leave. Making us do all this running. But Final Fantasy 14, at the end of the day, is like, hey, you want like the best dungeons out of any MMO and like have a blast doing it? Here you go. Here's the drawback though. We're gonna make you do the dumbest courier missions 1,000,000 times in a row for the story. That is one thing that like other MMOs do better, especially like WoW, right? Where it's like, okay, I can just do quests, go kill stuff, come back. Final Fantasy, it's like, nah, you gotta do the story quest where you're gonna run back and forth between 2 loading zones 50 times. Yo, that's so funny. I actually, Nomad, it's funny you say that. That was on Reddit, right? I saw that guy's post. He was like, I am so sorry. I'm surprised I didn't vote kick. But to be fair, Sydney and I recently have been in some raids or whatever, dungeons, etc., where like literally you see, I mean, no healer, with like 40% remaining on a boss, and somehow a DPS and a tank pull it out, and you're just like, dude, what? So I've seen some impressive clutch scenarios. Obviously, I'm dead in those situations because I play a black mage, and me no look at ground while I cast spells, so I die quickly. I feel like I die like a black mage the same way that I died as a dragoon all the time. Like, I'm just like, that AoE's there, but I'm gonna get my skill off before, oh, I'm dead. Or like I'm trying to do a slide cast, so I'm like waiting to get to that 0.5 remaining mark or whatever, and so I can move, and I always die like right then. And then once I die once and you res me, if I've got weakness, like, yeah, it's gonna happen again. Just give me 4 seconds and I'll die. All right, so let's do the belt real quick. Now I'm gonna go with kind of like an off cream color here with this. I'm gonna move back over here. Let me see. Dancer. I tried Dancer. I don't know why I didn't like it necessarily. I was playing. I really only like to do like 3 classes, and so I've got a white mage at 70, a paladin at like 76, and then I've got my black mage. And I had considered Dancer, but I don't know what turned me off about it. I think I tried to run a dungeon in it like immediately without learning how to use it, and it like scared me, so I just never did it again. But at high level, they're pretty badass to have in parties, so I know they're good. And then I know Justin has a black mage.
Oh yeah, I loved it. I actually, to this day, of all MMOs I've ever played, I think that's the one I loved combat in the most.
Yeah.
I just wish its end game was more like World of Warcraft, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I know with me, with WoW, like, I would come back, and I mean, my buddy Parker, Sydney and I's friend, he plays nonstop as well, but I just don't know if, I just don't think Sydney wants to mess with it, so.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, I can say, though, that I believe Shadowlands, per the numbers, is the highest attendance count and as far as acclaim since Watlick. And I imagine you played a long time ago, right? Like most of us.
Yeah, so I played Burning Crusade, and I took a long break until where Demon Hunters came out.
That was Legion.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I played Legion when it came out, and I like bought everything right you needed to get in there, and because it was my Final Fantasy group was like, hey, we're gonna go play this for a little bit. So I'm like, all right, and then got bored with that pretty quickly because they got bored with it, and then just never did anything again. So
yeah, I understand. I mean, it's definitely, in terms of games that I get bored with World of Warcraft much quicker than I do with Final Fantasy, but I think that just has to do with the combat. Like I said,
yeah.
I think WoW's combat is fine, but it's just not as,
it's like autopilot,
and yeah, it's not as visceral and really rewarding and satisfying when you send out a fire 4 and you're sending out 3 of them that hit like Mack trucks,
Oh yeah, or like my favorite thing to do with my black mage is whenever you get to do the AoE where you do your rotation of like 3 flares, and then you also have the whatever flare, right? Like that one. So you hit with all 4 of those, and you're like, hey, look, you're welcome. There's all the DPS.
It's all yours. No, I love it. It's Black Mage, probably Black Mage in 14, maybe even 11, are probably my 2 favorite experiences with any MMO of all time.
Yeah.
And they're just fantastic. They really are.
I really liked my Dragoon. And then, so yeah, Black Mage is definitely really fun right now too. Of all time though, out of any MMO I've played, the most fun I ever had was when I played Secret World. I played a melee caster class that was super fun. Only because we did a lot of PvP when it was a really popular game, so it was just hilarious. And then EverQuest 2, my Troubadour was like the most fun I think I'd ever had on a class. But those games obviously are not as poppin' as they once were, so it goes.
That's where the cookie crumbles.
Man, remember how we were all excited about New World, and then now it's like, nah.
Didn't it? Well, I mean, it's not. Is it full release yet?
No, not at all. They called off like the next beta until like Q2 or something.
Holy crap!
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so let's paint up his glizzy in his mouth, shall we? So I'm gonna go ahead and get our nut brown. Go ahead and do that. Gonna paint it up. Let that dry. The only reason why I haven't focused on the face or anything for highlighting is because we're going to do some glowing. So I don't want to like highlight it up and then do that. And then I did use the silver, obviously, to do the big old blammers, the other glizzies he's got. And then we'll do the belt buckle. It's a nice belt buckle you got there, bud.
Trash is right too, by the way. I forgot that at one point I streamed Classic WoW, and I was, I think, of the 2 or 3 hours I streamed it, 4 hours maybe. I think I spent a vast majority of that time running back to my body and just standing there.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible.
Okay.
But hey, really though, shout out to the 15 or 20 people that actually stood and watched that the entire time. I appreciate that, guys. Like, you really had nothing to do.
I know a lot of people liked it.
My time.
I've done a couple gaming streams before. Like when Sydney and I were playing Outward, we streamed a few times, and then I think I did a couple times we were playing Conan, but I don't know. I mean, we literally play video games every night, so like it would not be crazy for me to just magically turn the stream on. I don't know why I haven't done it, but mostly because that's just our decompress time, you know, have fun. All right, so now I'm going to take white, and we need to paint a little bit more white on the cigar than you would really expect. So almost 50% of it we're going to do white. Man, the tip of this got a little flash I didn't notice until right now, but that's fine. And we're gonna let that dry. And then we'll go ahead and, is this dry yet? It looks dry. You dry, homie? Guns are dry? All right, we're gonna make a little black wash here. Nothing crazy. Wash it over the gunnies. So yeah, remember guys, we'll be doing, oh, next week? I don't know what we're, I guess we'll do it in the order of the photo. So what's next? I think next week's the orc, right? Yeah. So we're doing the orc next week. Later tonight, I'll be doing a brush control video for Patreon, so that'll be exciting. It'll be nice to re-record that too. I know it's been so long. All right, so this is dry. All right. So we need a little bit of, So I'm gonna grab Sunrise Orange. And then our red. I'm gonna go ahead and move our palette land over here. Can you give me a few hints on how to motivate myself to start painting again? I didn't paint for a year. So, I mean, you said you're in the mood to do it, so I would just literally grab the first mini you think looks cool and start painting, you know, with like no plan. That would always be my number one tip. Because I've been stuck in a mode where I don't want to paint at all for months. So I would love to be back in that mood, but I'm sure I will eventually. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the orange and we're just going to run it on top like that. We'll let that dry. And we're going to take the red. I should have vortex that, but that's okay. And we're going to paint the end here, leaving some of the yellow closest, right? You can see what's happening there. Closest to the interior portion. You just want to get enough to have a transition from the yellow to the red. Or I guess it's not yellow, right? It was orange, but you get the idea. And we'll let that dry. However, we do have red here out on the palette, so we're going to get a glaze consistency here. And pretty much around wherever this action's happening. Now I'm going to add a little bit more water. You got to try harder than that. I don't know why that just reminded me of that commercial. All right. So now, lazily, we're going to glaze some red all around the face and on the poncho. Whenever you're doing OSL like this on something that isn't just super sharp contrast or lighter colors, it's always best to go with darker colors first. So like if it's, you know, we have orange and like yellow and brighter red, so you want to have like a deeper reddish glow before highlighting up. Especially if you're airbrushing, you want to go darker than brighter. You want to be able to tint, not recolor, if that makes sense. Anytime you do OSL with like an airbrush or anything like that, you never want to cover the pigment beneath it. You want to alter the pigment on top. I mean, you can if you're in a hurry, but it just looks sloppy and not as good as it should. So now I'm going to take the black, where's some white? There we go. We just want a really dark gray for the ash. And I'm going to repaint the very tip here, like so, right? Like the very end of that should be ash, so it'll be darker. I'm imagining he's doing the, did we really make it through that whole playlist? That's cool. So, essentially he's like doing a giant pull on his cigar, right? And that's like the effect that's happening. I'm imagining he's like in the middle of a gunfight and he's just pulling the cigar, like, you know how in cartoons when somebody's mad they'll like pull a cigar all the way, like Bender, right? Like Bender from Futurama, he'll smoke a whole cigar in one valiant I don't have real lungs breath. All right, so we got that. So now I'm going to take that red, a little bit of that leather tone, and then some of the orange, a little bit of white. You see me mixing it here on the palette. I'll move it over here. See, he's smoking like a gorilla in a gunfight. I mean, yeah. I definitely think we're onto something with that one. And I'm going to be going towards edges that are closest to the glizzy. So, right here on the lip. Bottom of the chin. Upper lip there. Honestly, we could just use white to do this too, but and then glaze it down. I don't know. We'll see which works better. There are two ways that you could do this, so I'll just do it this way. Already started. Get the teeth. Teeth are gonna have more of this because they're more reflective. Go ahead and do the bottom corner of the nose. And arbitrarily pick out some strands of the hair here. Then gently glaze it in closer to where we had the red on the poncho. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take white and the orange and mix together just a actual pigmented up color here. That'll be like the highlight. Yeah, something like that. This is what we'll do actually. So yeah, apply a little bit more of this than you typically think you should, and then we'll glaze it back down with the red. All right, now I got the red. And I'm just going to do, obviously, the furthest away edges to the cigar. Like so. There we go. Fur. Awesome. Okay, and then we just need a gray, like a middle gray, to do the skin. You can add a little bit of brown or something if you would like. That ended up turning green. That was dumb. I'm gonna go back down here. And just gently highlight up the rest of his features. And you don't want to compete, really. So I'll make it a little bit brighter, but you don't want to compete with the OSL. There we go. Inside of the face there. Cool. Now we'll back it out. The Bug King. Thanks for the raid. Do appreciate it. I will say thank you. I know a lot of people don't say thank you when you get raided, so always appreciate it here. So now we'll go ahead and do the knuckles, etc. Just doing the knuckles and the joints on the finger. Easiest way to get her done. You can actually wash the skin back down too if you want, but kind of like glazing in a browner shadow. And we do have thumbnails. We don't really have fingernails, but... So I'll do a little bit of brown mixed in. All right, so we have the band of the hat. Here, we'll do that real quick. It's funny, I have all these Wild West minis to paint up myself, and I always end up forgetting the band of the hat. I don't know why. Important. All right, so that pretty much winds it in. Thanks so much, of course, for hanging out for our first Miniature Monday of the new year. Very exciting. I know a lot of people were excited about the new palette that we're rocking with and everything like that. Next week, remember, we are rocking and rolling on the Orc, which, according to feedback today, you guys are excited about, so that'll be cool. It's a good sculpt. It's a good paint job. Easy peasy. It isn't really the way that I paint green skin, right? I tried to fake like the old school Reaper style Orc skin of like highlighting up with white, so it's a little bit atypical for the way that I work, but I think it looks really, really nice. And we'll knock that out as well. Tonight, remember, Patreon will be doing a brush. I just read book in the chat. Brush control video, refilming the most popular class, and yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. We should hopefully be finishing up the dwarf Wednesday evening for the Atelier tier, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So, thanks so much for hanging out with us today. I'm pleased here. I think he looks really rad for our first mini. I'm most excited about the Marrow for this month, but I know that'll be 2 weeks from now. And then we've got our spooky Sailor Sniper at the end of the month as well. And then remember, 2 weeks from now, whatever, you guys will know the miniatures for February. You'll see all the paint jobs, and you can order those as you would. So thanks so much. Again, I hope you guys had a good New Year, etc., etc. Is there a SKU list for this month's minis? Yeah. Right here. It's going to blacklist this post, but... Oh, or maybe not.
Me and I'll... Oh, okay. There we go.
There you go. There you are. So, thanks so much, Justin. Do we have a victim today?
Well, I was looking at the list here. We have a couple. We could raid Nalinde. We haven't raided Nalinde in a hot minute.
Oh, yeah. That
She's
works.
very nice.
Okay. Sounds good to me. Thanks so much, guys. We'll see you next week.
Thank you guys very much. Say hi to Nalinde for us. We'll see you later.